like a tree like, and in JavaScript presented as properties and operations as methods. So whatever operations you perform on the data, we call them as method functions. So functions, you will pass the variable or a data. So data represented as property, and the operations we call it as methods. So whenever you get, whenever you understand, whenever you want to have something about the DOM, always remember the tree structure which has the HTML as a root and then containing the remaining children. Okay. So this structure I will show you like how it is like a conceptual tree, and nodes of the tree will be JavaScript object. Attributes of elements become the named properties of the element node object. Here you have an input type is equal to text and name is equal to address. So the object node will have two properties. Type property will have the value text and name property will have the value address. So this is like an object. Okay, this is one of the node in your tree, in your DOM tree. So in this node you have certain property called type is equal to text. If you have a class, then it will become a property and the class can have a class name. And here name will be the property and this is a value, property value pair kind of things. So input or a p tag, we call such things as a nodes in a DOM tree. Element access in the JavaScript. Elements in XHTML document correspond to all JavaScript. So whatever the elements in XHTML documents, like a p tag or a span tag or a div tag, anything, it corresponds to the objects in the JavaScript. So objects can be addressed in several ways. Forms and elements array defined in DOM 0. Individual elements are specified by the index. For example, individual elements, you have something of p of 0, child node of 0 kind of things. In the examples, the index may change when the form changes, and using the name attribute for the form and form elements, a name on the form element causes the validation problems. Names are required on form elements providing data to the server. So whatever the names you are providing for the particular forms, it helps to understand the server like what kind of data it is holding. Okay. Using the get element by ID with ID attributes. If your page has some p tag and it has some ID called as a demo, you can get the content within the p tag using the ID attribute with the help of this tag document is nothing but your HTML document dot get element by ID of p tag. You can get the element of a p tag by using its ID. So ID attribute must be unique for an element. So we have discussed like ID should be unique, class can be repeatable. Okay, that concept we can observe here. Using the form arrays. So consider this form. You have a form action input. You have a button and name as push me. So the input element can be referenced as document dot forms of 0 dot element of 0. Forms of 0 is nothing but if your page has multiple forms, then you can consider this form of 0 first form dot element of this form. You have an element input as the first element. You don't have any other element. So you can refer this as a forms of 0 dot element of 0. Now coming to the name attributes, all the elements from the reference element up to but not including the body must have the name attribute. This violates XHTML standards in some cases. See this, observe this example. Form name, my form, there is an action. Okay, referencing the input document dot my form dot push me. You are referencing to a particular name, but rather than violate the standards in XHTML standards in some cases. Okay. Using the ID attribute. Set the ID attribute of the input element. Here you can have an ID attribute for the input. If your input element has some text beside it like this, hello or something, document dot your HTML document is your nothing but the document object in your window or a browser, which is nothing but your HTML. Entire document dot within the document, search the entire document dot get element by ID. So which ID is it? Turn it on. So what it will Observe is like you can have the particular ID content retrieved by using this document dot get element by ID. Okay, I'm just going to load the page again. Okay. Now coming to the concept of the events and event handling. So event-driven programming is a style of programming in which pieces of code event handlers be activated when certain event occurs. Event is nothing but an action. Okay, when you click on a button, some action has to be performed, which either redirects you to a new page based on code or any other action you wish to see on your browser. Okay, event-driven programming is a style of programming in which pieces of code, event handlers are written to be activated when certain event occurs. Mean whatever the event that occurs, then these particular events are activated in order to perform the action. So events represent activity in the environment, including especially the user actions such as moving the mouse or typing on the keyboard. So you can consider like clicking on a keyboard is an event, okay, and moving your mouse. You can observe like we have understood the property called hover in CSS. Hover is nothing but when you move the mouse on your particular code, the color of the line or something can be changed. So that can be also taken as an event. Okay. An event handler is a program segment designed to execute when a certain event occurs. So events are represented by the JavaScript objects. So these JavaScript objects helps us to represent the events. So registration in the activity of connecting a script to a type of event. Assign an event attribute and event handler. Assign a DOM node and event handler. For DOM node, DOM node is nothing but you can have a document object model node that can be input or P or anything inside your document, and you can attach an event handler to the DOM. Coming to the events, attributes and tags. So what are the different types of events that you can have in the JavaScript are blur, change, click, focus, load, mouse down, mouse move, mouse out, mouse hover, mouse up, select. So these are the different kinds of events you have in the JavaScript. So tag attribute is like you will use this particular code in your HTML like on blur something should happen like on change, okay, on click, on focus. So these are the tag attributes that you use. So these are the events. On blur means when you remove the focus, this blur event will be fired. Okay. Now coming to the events, attributes and tags. Particular events are associated to certain attributes. So some events are always associated to the certain attributes. The attribute for one kind of event may appear on different tags, allowing the program to react to events affecting different components. Some kind of attributes of events, they may appear on different tags. Same event can be performed on different tags, allowing the program to react to events affecting different components. It will affect the different components when all the like when they respond to the event. Okay, a text element gets focused in three ways: when the when the user puts the mouse cursor over it and presses the left button, the user tab of the element, and by executing the focus method. Focus means on a particular input, then that particular input box you can see your mouse is blinking kind of thing. Okay. So now, when the user tabs to the element, when he uses the tab on your keyboard and goes to a particular element, okay, this particular focus will be displayed. So losing the focus is blurring. Blurring is nothing but when you lose the focus. when you're trying to tap to other element, then you are losing focus in your first input. Oh, that is nothing but the blurring. Okay. Now coming to setting a handler, how to actually set a event handler to your input tag or elements. So using an attribute, a JavaScript command can be specified. So you have an input type is equal to button, it has some name. So for this button, you are giving some event, okay? On clicking of, so on click what you have done, you have displayed an alert box, okay? You click the button. So what this alert box is, on click of it, immediately this alert box is displayed. A function call can be used if the handler is longer than a single statement. Okay. See, for example, here you have only single statement in your on click. So you have directly written the single statement like alert of you click the button. But here on click has set of statements, multiple statements. You can wrap them in a function like you can write a function like my handler in your JavaScript file. So this example I will show you handling events for from the body element. First of all, let us come next slides also. Then I can give you a complete example session. Okay. Handling events. Input type is equal to button. You have a name. You have given some ID. So using this ID also you can write a function. So using an event attribute. Event attribute is nothing but like this. On click is equal to you have written some function name. This function can be elaborated in the JavaScript file. Okay. So you have an ID. With the ID, you have an event attribute. Event attribute is nothing but on click. Now assigning a property of the element node. So you can either get element document or get element by ID of free button. You can get this particular input ID element and then see here you have an ID called free button, right? For this you have given an on click like this and you have these are the ways that you can have it and the function name a reference to a function is assigned. So like you have to note like the function name a reference to a function is assigned. So writing free button handler would assign the return function call as the handler. Okay. So whatever the thing you are writing here, right? It should be clearly mentioned like there should be a reference to this function. So these are some of the examples like radio underscore click.html that I will explain you. This is about the radio buttons and the check boxes. Okay. So for these check boxes and radio buttons, how the event handler, so that I will now coming to the comparing registration method. Yeah. So now assigning to an attribute is more flexible, allowing passing parameters without having to create an anonymous function. So here you have to understand like what is an anonymous function. Anonymous function doesn't have any name, okay? That we call it as an anonymous function. So assigning an attribute is more flexible, allowing passing parameters without having to create an anonymous function. So every time you should remember like you should have a function and passing allowing the parameters to be passed to the function. So without having the not named function, we can have it as an anonymous function definition. Okay, separate HTML and this code. So node properties means for the node p tag or anything, you can have a you can assign property for the particular node. Like input is a node, you can have a type property, name property. Okay, assigning to a node property allows reassignment later if the handler needs to be changed. So if you want the handler to be changed, like on click to on or something, so have the reassignment later. Handling events from a text box and a password element. So by manipulating the focus event, the user can be prevented from changing the amount in a text input field. So this can also be explained to you by an example. So by manipulating the focus event, focus is nothing but when you click on a particular input box, your cursor will be blinking in a particular input, which is nothing but the focus event in your text input field. This is possible to work around. So copy the page but leave without the variable. Simulate an HTTP request directly with the socket level. So these are some of the workarounds for the handling the events from text box and the password elements. Okay. Validating the form input. Validating the data using JavaScript provides quicker interaction for the user. Validation is nothing but when you are entering any phone number, you are just going to validate like that particular input field should take only numbers but not any alphabets. So these kind of validations can be performed in the client side, that is from a JavaScript end. Validity checking on server requires a round trip to respond with an appropriate error page. So what happens when you consider the validation from the server side, then what it has to do is to validate from the backend, and again it has to send it to the front end to display the error page. Handling a data validity error. Put the focus in the field in a question. Highlight the text for easier editing. So for handling a data error, for example, if you are writing the alphabets in a instead of writing the numbers, then you can highlight the particular input box like a red color, highlighting the text. Okay, like this is not valid kind of things. If an event handler returns false, default actions are taken by the browser. So whenever the event handler returns false, so default browser will take the default actions. This can be used in a submit button event handler to check the validity and not submit if there are problems. So if there are any validation errors, it should not allow the page to be submit to the backend. Validating the input. So the validator.html example, this I will show you. The name is first, middle, initial, each part capitalized. So this is like a kind of pattern matching validation which we do. The phone number format is like 3 digits, hyphen 3 digits, hyphen 4 digits. Here you can see that, right? This we have discussed like starts with exponent and end. Okay, and the importance of the backslash. D of 3 means it accepts 3 digits. Okay, not alphanumeric, only digits. So each pattern uses exponent and dollar anchors to make the string matches. Okay, now coming to the DOM to event model. DOM to is defined in modules. So the event module defines several submodules. HTML events and mouse events are common. Mouse events means like mouse down, mouse up, like that. An event object is passed as a parameter to an event handler. For a particular event handler, we can pass the event object. This object provides information about the event. So for this particular object, whatever the properties will be there, that will provide the information about what kind of event it is. Some event types will extend the interface to include information relevant to the subtype. For example, a mouse event will include the location of the mouse at the time of the event. So when the event is happening, we can consider a mouse event which helps to tell that where the mouse is. Okay, the mouse. Coming to the event flow. So DOM2 defines a process for determining which handlers to execute for a particular event. So this tells us like which handlers to execute for a particular event. The process has 3 phases, different event types, and the event objects representing the event is created at the particular node called as a target node. So what happens here is like what type of handlers that has to be executed for a particular event that can be specified using this DOM tool, and event object representing that event, okay, is created in a particular node called as a target node. For example, we get input as a node for which there are certain event objects representing. Excuse me. So the event propagation like three phases. Okay, we have like event propagation is nothing but, for example, you consider a div within another div. You have a click for the child div and also for the parent div. This is a nested div in which you have like two clicks. For the child you have a click and parent you have a click. When event propagation means you have like two types of event propagations here, event bubbling and event capturing. So consider event bubbling means the propagation, the event propagation will start from the child to the parent. Means first the child click will happen and then the parent click will happen. So this is nothing but event bubbling. Bubbling always starts from nested element and then the parent element. Okay. Same the capturing is the vice versa of it. If the capturing each node from the document root to the target node in order is examined. So if the node is not the target node and there is a handler for that event at the node, and the handler is nothing but here you can consider the alert as one of the handler. Handler is enabled for capture of the node. The handler is executed. You simply for your understanding purpose remember in your mind like you have event propagation, two things, event bubbling and event capturing. Capturing means it starts the event handling from first the parent should be triggered, parent click should be triggered and then the child click will be triggered, that is capturing. So bubbling is a reverse of it. First the child click will be triggered and then the parent click will be triggered. So this is one of the important concepts in JavaScript. In bubbling phase, each node from the parent of the target node to the root node. So root node from inside to the root node in order is examined. Event propagation. As each handler is executed, properties of the event provide context. The current target property is the node to which the handler is registered. Current target means whatever the current element is there for which there is any event handler, then we can call that as current target property. The target property is the node to which the event was originally directed. So there is a difference between current target and target. Target means in simple words you can understand some aim or something which you have targeted it. But there is a current target means current it is having this and later the final target is something else. Okay, like that you can differentiate. One major advantage of this scheme over DOM0 is that event handling can be centralized in the ancestor node. For example, a calculator keyboard will have a number of digit buttons. In some GUI frameworks, a handler must be added to each button separately. In DOM2, buttons could be organized under a single node and the handler placed on the node. So you can have the event handling can be centralized. They have given an example like you have a calculator keyboard, you have all the digits in it. So it like some graphical user interface frameworks, handler must be added to each button separately. For example, you have same buttons like number of buttons which performs different actions actually. Okay, you can have a separate event for each button. So in DOM2, the buttons could be organized under a single node. For example, if you have same kind of event for all the buttons, if there are different events like click, blur, focus, you can have a different events for the different buttons. But in case if you have the same event on the multiple buttons, then you can organize all the buttons under a single node and handler can be placed on that particular node. Okay. Event handler registration. So handlers are called listeners in a DOM. We call the handlers as listeners because they listen to the event and then responds to it. Add event listener is used to register a handler. So like document.get element by ID, document.add event listener is also another method in JavaScript. It has like three parameters. It listens to the event, add event listener of click or something. Okay. The string naming the event type. It has three parameters, the handler and a boolean specifying whether the handler is enabled for the capture phase or not. So you have a three parameters. Okay. The string naming the event type, what kind of event it is, add event listener of click comma function name for which this click has to be happened. Okay, the handler. So this is an example that I will show you. Now coming to the navigator object. The navigator object properties of the navigator object allow the script to determine characteristics of the browser in which the script is executing. The app name property gives the name of the browser. For example, you have a browser window that is a Chrome or a Firefox or anything. You have given navigator.app name. Then it will give like what is the browser name, whether it is Mozilla Firefox or Chrome or IE or UC browser or anything. Okay. Tab version gives a browser version, like what version of the browser it is. Like this, you can see the output. DOM tree traversal and modification. So each element in an XHTML document has a corresponding element object in the DOM representation. The element object, like you have seen, like document dot forms of zero dot element of zero in the previous slides, which gives like in the entire document you can have the first form. In the first form you can have the first element which can be input or anything. So the element object has methods to support traversing the document, that is visiting each of the document nodes, modifying the document, for example, removing and inserting child nodes. For the entire document structure DOM, you can be input or P or anything, or you can insert a child node. Okay. Various properties of element objects are related nodes. Parent node references the parent node of the element. For example, you have an element input element that is inside a div. Inside a div tag, there is an input tag. For the input tag, the div tag will be the parent. Parent here we will refer like parent node. Child node is input. Okay. Previous sibling and next sibling connect the children of a node into a list. For example, if you in your div you have an input and a p element. Input and P will be siblings, like sisters or brothers kind of thing, for which you have a parent. Parent is nothing but your div. So previous sibling, next sibling. First child and last child refers children of an element. So first child comes to the first child and last child, it refers the children of an element. These would be text nodes or element nodes contained in the element. So this can be text nodes or element nodes, P element or anything, text nodes. DOM tree modification, the insert before method. So these are the methods. You can see now here you have a parent node event. Remember these properties like parent node. Inside the parent you can have a siblings which are in a same level, parallel level. We call them as siblings. You can have the previous node by using the previous sibling, next sibling, first child, last child. Insert before you can insert certain insert before method inserts a new child of a target node. For example, P is your target node. You can insert before P you can insert another node something called span or div you wish to insert before. So these are all the dynamic methods in which you can create the HTML. You can create a P tag P element dynamically. Document dot create element of P. Replace child, remove child, append child. The name itself simply understand what methods it will help us. So this is all about the DOM elements, about the JavaScript JavaScript inside the like how you can have the JavaScript manipulations to be done on a DOM, that is a document that can be handled dynamically. Now I'm going to share my screen to show the examples related to this session. Okay, give me a second. Now I'm going to share my screen. So here you can see the navigate.js, which has a function called nav properties. Okay, so in JavaScript, you have embedded the particular navigate.js, okay, and for body, you have called this nav properties function. So body onload. Onload means whenever your HTML page is loaded. So when you in the HTML, whenever your body is loaded, then this particular function should be triggered. Okay, what happened here? This nav properties has navigator.app name of your browser, navigator.app version, which version of your browser. So let us run it and see. So here you can see the browser is Netscape and the version is 5. Now coming to the next example. No change.html. For writing the HTML, you can either use a notepad or an editor like Notepad++. You can install at your place. Notepad++ is a very good editor. You can either have a Dreamweaver also. Okay. There is also another editor. You can use Eclipse, Dreamweaver, or anything you wish to use. So you have a certain table here. So using this Notepad++, you can have a clear description of each and every line. So you can have a different colors, representation, form, you have everything. Okay. This is your script. This is your form. You have a table with a border. You have one row. This is another. These are about the entries. This is a column heading. So always it is the best practice to write the comments so that any user can understand your code. So this is a calculation part, compute cost, which you can observe in a you have a function here. You have on click, you have used this on click tag and event attribute, you have used it. So on dot blur, so this keyword we have already heard, like this in JavaScript refers to that particular function. So this is nothing but input. It refers to the input. This input only. Okay. This dot blur. So let us see the. So now this is a dynamic form. So here you can see input type is equal to text, id is equal to French, and size is equal to 2. Size you have specified as like 2. I can give n number of elements, but size means it will show like how much it can occupy. Okay. Some 2 quantity I have given, ice cream 3 quantity, 5 quantity. Okay. Total cost it will display. So total, what is there in your total cost function? Total cost is nothing but your, this is the value. So for the input value, you can see the value here. Sorry, you can see the value here. Total cost for the input button value means it will come like this. The output of the compute cost. Okay. What you did in the compute cost is you got the element value into the French variable. Document dot get element by id of French. What is your French? id French here. Okay. This value. What is the value? You can see here I have given as 2 dynamic value. So 2, 3 and 5. You have got the with the help of this id, like you have got all the values of the quantity, and what is the function that you have applied? You have multiplied it and added it. Okay. This is a total cost. Okay. This is what how it happens. Click on the clear form. It will clear the values. Submit the form. It will clear the values. Okay. If you want to calculate it, you can have the total cost. Now coming to the next example, password check. Now understand like what is the thing. This is your HTML code. Now by this time you should be understanding like how can you write your form elements. Okay. This is your label. This is your input id value. Okay. Here if you give the value like this, you can write the value before itself in your like static HTML. Otherwise, if you use this value in your JavaScript code, then it will be a dynamic assignment. Okay. In your password check, what you have done is you have the particular IDs like initial and second, which you can see here. This is your initial ID and second ID. So in this input tag, any dynamic text, you can get the value using this. Using the ID, you can get the value of the particular input into this. If that particular value init is there now, init dot value. Dot value is nothing but for the input you have something like value property, right? Okay. This value property you have checked here double equal to. Okay. Content checking is empty. You did not enter a password. Okay. You did not enter a password. Please enter one now. Okay. These two things you haven't entered and clicked on submit. Init dot focus. What is the init dot focus means? You have written nothing and clicked on submit. Okay. Now on OK, after the validation time, your focus should be when go to the init. Okay. You have clicked on OK. Now init is nothing but your first input box. Now the focus is here. Okay. And then return false. Coming out of this particular loop is nothing but return false. init value not equal to SSE dot value. I mean, two password you entered are not the same. Okay, I'll do one thing. I'll enter one password like this and another password. Both are not same, and then I clicked on submit. Then it will display like two passwords you entered are not the same. Please re-enter both now. So on clicking of OK, where the focus should go, check the here. Check init dot focus. Okay, the focus should go to init. Okay. Now the focus it has gone. Now init dot select. Okay, fine. So no need of using this actually. So it will return the particular false and it will come out. Let's try to understand the next example. Okay. We don't get element by ID of second. So this is notation of writing your on blur and on submit. So this example that I this is like a register the email for the password check.html document dot get element by id of my form or second you can have this. This is okay. This form is nothing but this form. This will consider the entire form. Okay. On submit of this form, what should happen? Check the passwords. So check passwords is nothing but your function that you get another notation of calling a function like this. Okay, this function should have what are the set of actions that has to be occurred. So this is the syntax. Okay, now let us go through another example. This is about the radio click.js. Okay, has certain elements like you have is equal to radio. If the radio has some name. So for all the radio tags, you should have the names like a same value. Okay, name should have the same name. It should contain the same name. You can have a different value. Okay, radio. So for on click of this particular radio button, you are passing the particular value to the plain choice. So what is here? So for this plain choice, you are passing 152. So you in a switch case, so this plane is passed here. Case 152, a small two-plane airplane, two-place airplane for flight training. So this alert will come. So based on the sections, the particular alert will come. Let us see like how the output appears. So just click on the radio button. You got some alert box like this. A small two place. This thing you can see the alert. 72 plain option 172 means here. This thing. Second radio button. This thing. Then okay. So this is one of the example. Simple example you can understand. Now let us go to other example. So this is another example for radio click. Again you have the same kind of notation, and we are just changing the JS for it. Okay. Click to .html. Within this HTML you are calling radio underscore click to our.js. So this particular JS here, okay. This play choice function can observe here. Okay. So what happens? This is another way of assigning on click. So previously you can see like you have given a on click in a respective inputs here itself. Here like on click. So you should not have any space on click. You can see like it will be auto populated. Yeah, sorry for the interruption. You can see here you can write the on click is equal to whatever the plain action or that particular function. Okay. So instead of writing on click for each and every input tag, you can have all the input tags ID my form. Okay. You can have all these in a my form. Okay, you can use this ID instead of using individual on respective inputs. You can ID elements of 0 means your first input. Dot on click. Elements of 2 dot on click, 3 on click, 4 on click. For this you are calling the same function plain choice. Okay. This is one of the examples. Now coming to the validator.html. So here you are trying to validate using a phone number. Okay. Last name. So let us see how it behaves. So this is your check name property, which you can observe here. Okay. You have got the document.get element ID of custom name. This is nothing but your ID. ID means here you can see the name, ID, phone. On change of this particular thing, check name function should open. Or on change. On change means whenever you change a particular thing, this particular function should be invoked. Okay. For this